Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be taking an early look at winter and December as well. We're going to be going over some of the things that I'm looking at in terms of building my forecast. My winter forecast and my December forecast will be coming out on the 29th and the 30th, so the last 2 days of the month, and you'll get those back to back, so make sure you have your notifications on, make sure you are subscribed, and make sure that you don't miss that video or those videos when they do come out. We're going to be going over a couple more in-depth things that you wouldn't see on my regular winter forecast, where I usually just give the temperature anomalies, the precipitation anomalies, and then my overall forecast. We're gonna actually go a lot more in depth, and it's gonna kind of be the reason why my forecasts are built the way that they are now. This may be a two-part video, just depending on how long this goes. I'm going to try and keep each part around 10 minutes. So if I can squeeze all of this in 10 minutes, we'll only have one part. But I think I'll probably have to do two parts with this because we do have a lot of information to go over. So a lot of you guys know that the sea surface temperatures have a lot to do with this, with the winter, and also December and January. Really, those winter months have a lot to do with what happens over the equatorial Pacific. Right here, as you get west of South America, you really have to watch these water temperatures because they can actually be quite important in making your forecast. Now, this will tell you whether you have a El Nino, a La Nina, or whether you have an Enso neutral. And Enso neutrals, usually you have a jet stream that's fairly favorable for portions of the eastern United States, so the Enso neutral will be in black. The La Nina is kind of more like this. It kind of moves more across portions of the northern United States. So it kind of goes like this, and then you really don't see too much of a southern jet. And then with an El Nino, you really see more of something like this, where your jet stream is a lot further to the west, and really much of the eastern United States gets quite warm. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. As you get a weaker La Nina, you can still have a fairly good winter, and even strong La Ninas have given good winters for some areas in the eastern United States. So it really all depends on the winter, and there's a lot more factors than just the Enso pattern. Now, here's one of those factors, the models. This is something that I look at. Now, you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, this is going to be a very, very warm winter. This is really something that I'm not trusting too much because I'm going to show you what the CFS model shows. This is a long-range forecast. The CanSIPS model, the Canadian model, also shows this as well, pretty much the same thing, although both of them have a warm bias, and I'm going to show you why I don't trust what they're showing. Now, we see pretty much red-hot temperatures all the way through much of the much of the United States, actually all of the United States, all of Canada for the most part, and even up into Alaska and the Arctic Circle. The only area is a little outclove over portions of Greenland and over the northern Atlantic, and that's actually where your NAO would take place. So this is calling for potentially a negative NAO, which does produce usually cold air for the eastern United States. So that's something that's positive for, that's something that's good if you like the cold and snow, is that you see those cold temperatures there. But also, the good thing is, if you do like cold and snow, you have also those warm temperatures being forecasted for the Arctic Circle. If you have cold temperatures up here and then warm temperatures all around there, then you're probably going to have a warm winter. But the fact that this model shows warm everywhere kind of leads me to not trust this. You can't have warm temperatures everywhere. You're going to need somewhere to be cold. And the fact that you have warm temperatures here means that the cold has to be somewhere, and that cold will be either in North America or in Europe or in both of those areas. So the colder air is going to have to go somewhere. If you have that negative NAO, that might be able to bring your jet stream a little bit further south and might actually lead to some of those colder temperatures. Now, that's for December. Here's for January, and this is a good sign for you snow and cold lovers. Look at where that cold air is. If you have cold air in central Canada, it's fairly likely that you're going to have that get down to the United States. It's very unlikely that you have warm up to the north and you have cold down to the south, or you have warm to the south and you just have cold in the middle. Usually that cold air is going to spill down into the eastern United States. And if we actually look at February here on the same model, we're looking at that cold air actually intensifying and that warm air being pushed a little bit further to the south. So that is something good that I'm looking at. The models I know are very inaccurate, especially that far out, and these models have a very warm bias. But some of those signs, not just looking at the temperature anomalies, but looking at where those temperature anomalies are setting up, give me a good hint at some sort of colder pattern that might set up for many areas as we get into as we get into the winter months. Now, if you're just wondering, here's what the precipitation anomalies are with this model, and I think this is actually quite accurate. Usually in a La Nina, you don't see that southern jet stream, so you usually get below normal precipitation for portions of the southern United States, but that northern jet stream is usually quite active, and you usually do get quite a bit of precipitation either in rainfall or in snowfall for some of those areas along the northern half of the United States. So I actually agree a lot with this, and this is averaged out from December to February for the precipitation. Now, something else that we want to look at, here's the CFS model, same model, but looking at 10 millibars up in the atmosphere. Now, this is 90,000 to 105,000 feet up in the atmosphere, and when you get those blues, that's indicating some of those colder height anomalies, and that's indicating that you have a dip in the jet stream. If you have those oranges, that's where you have more of ridging. So you can see we have a ridge out over the eastern Pacific. We have a trough down into the eastern United States. This is 90,000 to 105,000 feet up in the atmosphere. So this is very high up, and sometimes this does not translate down to the surface. So while maybe it's very cold in the upper parts of the atmosphere, it might not translate down to the surface, although I do think it will, because we're having a lot of systems, and when these systems move by in this underneath this upper air pattern, it can sometimes drag down some of that colder air, and eventually I think this will translate down to the surface, where this is averaged out for the whole month of December, you get some sort of dip in the jet stream for the eastern United States, and that would probably take place closer to the middle or end part of the month. Now, here's for January, and it's a little bit more suppressed, but what you're looking at is more of that troughing, but it's a little bit further to the east. That ridging is actually moving a little bit further east, so I think January might be a little bit warmer of a month, and then as you get back to February, I think this might also be a colder month, because look at that jet stream, it's dipped down further to the south again. So that's just something that I'm keeping an eye on. Now, if you're wondering, here's what the GFS shows, but this is, let's go a little bit shorter term. So that was long range. That was going from December to February. Let's look at the shorter term. Let's look at late November to early December. Now, this is November 23rd. This is today, and what the current height anomalies are. And we have actually an elongated low pressure system or upper level low pressure system over portions of the Arctic Circle. We actually have some warming over portions of the eastern Arctic area, and then we're looking at that dip in the jet stream actually occurring in the western United States. Now, something to point out, this is a lagging indicator, and what that actually means is that when you see something like this in the upper atmosphere, it's usually going to take about 7 to 14 days for that to happen on the surface if it does translate down to the surface. So, for example, this is right now. You would most likely see a pattern like this right around the 30th of November, or maybe a little bit later than then. So you have to kind of add 7 to 14 days to this, and this is what the surface map should actually look like. Because of how high this is up in the atmosphere, it's going to take a while for that to get all the way down to the lower levels of the atmosphere. Now let's go 100 more hours out. Here it'd be by the 27th, and we're starting to see that cold air actually start to move into northern Canada and even start to spill down a little bit into portions of the United States. And this is covering much of the United States by this point. So this is the 27th. Here's the 2nd of December, and you're now starting to see that ridging, which is a good sign for those of you who like cold in the eastern United States. You're seeing that ridging, and ridging is going to force that cold air to go further to the eastern United States. So you're seeing this polar flow where you have a direct flow from portions of the Arctic Circle down into the eastern United States. So all of your air is originating up here in the Arctic Circle and then translating its way further to the south over portions of the United States. So you have that polar connection by that point. Here's by December 2nd. So this is December 2nd. So this would probably, the surface map would look like this most likely right around the 9th or 10th. Now, here would be what the upper atmosphere looks like at December 6th, and it's moved a little bit further to the east, and your ridging has now solidified over portions of the eastern Pacific and now creeping onto the west coast. And now look at your jet stream, it's now dipped even further to the south and to the east. You're now looking at that polar flow more from northern Greenland further to the south over portions of the United States there. And so this would be December 6th, so this would probably be on the surface right around December, I would probably say around the 13th or 14th of December. And then here's what it looks like December 9th. And this is the end of the model run. And you can assume this will probably stay in place for about another 7 to 14, maybe even up to 20 or more days if this pattern continues. Because look at the last frame here. This is what the previous frame looked like. This is December 6th. Here's December 9th. Really nothing has changed. And with such a fast moving system, fast moving pattern that we have right now, that looks unusual. And maybe we get a slower pattern, but we get a colder pattern, and we get a potentially snowier pattern. And that's something that we have to keep our eye on. So your ridge is still out here over portions of the eastern Pacific, and we actually have that dip in the jet stream still for the parts of the eastern United States. And again, this would probably start to take place as you get right around that 10th, 11th, 12th of December. I think that's when you're going to really start to feel that cold air. Now, here's something else that we want to look at. Here are your oscillations. Here's the NAO, and I know a lot of you have heard that term before, and we're going to explain exactly what that means in just a second. But if you like cold and snow in the east, you want a negative NAO, and look at that, it looks like it's going to go negative right around the start of the month. Now here's the AO. You also want this to be negative, and it's getting all the way from that peak that it's currently at. It was right up here 3 or 4 degrees above normal, and if you remember, November was very above normal. And look at this, over the entire month of November you guys were in a very positive AO, and now it's dipping further negative, and it looks like it might become near average. That will lead to a colder pattern if combined with that negative NAO. Here's the PNA. That's a very big indicator, because once that shoots up positive, that means that you have a ridge out in the west, and ridges out in the western United States force cold air down into the eastern United States. And then here's the EPO, and you usually want the EPO to be negative, or actually you want the EPO to be positive. So it is going a little bit negative, but it's still in that positive range, or at least near normal. You would really not want this to go at least 2 degrees below average, because when it does do that, that's when you can get into a very warm pattern. So if you're a cold and snow lover, you really have to watch this indicator, because if that goes 2 degrees below the average, then that's going to be an issue for this forecast. So we have to keep our eye on that. But right now it looks like it might just stay right around normal, and maybe even spike up a little bit later on. Now, here are the areas that this all affects. So the EPO out in the orange, the PNA in the red, the AO in the purple, the NAO in the blue. So those are the different areas that measures. So for example, if the PNA is very warm, well, that correlates with a warmer western United States. And we all know when you have warm in the west, you usually have cold in the east, because that cold air has to go somewhere. If it's not in the western United States, it's likely in the eastern United States. Now, if you like cold and snow in the east, here's what you want. You want a positive EPO, you want a positive PNA, and you also want a negative AO and a negative NAO. Now, if you live in the western United States, basically from the Rockies westward, what you want is a positive NAO, a positive AO, and a negative PNA. Nobody, if they like cold and snow, wants a negative EPO, because that leads to troughing out near north of Hawaii, and what that actually makes, and I'll actually do this in a different color here, it actually leads to a much warmer pattern, where you kind of have a jet stream that kind of goes like this. And for pretty much the entire United States, you guys are going to be in a warm pattern if you get that negative EPO. So fingers crossed, if you like cold and snow, that you don't get into that negative EPO pattern. But right now there's no indicators that would lead me to believe that it would. So hopefully you guys did enjoy that forecast. Let me know if you did, if you do want more of these type of videos, and I will definitely pump that out. And if you want more of these throughout the winter, winter, I might make a couple more winter discussion type videos throughout the winter. Maybe I'll make one in mid-December to see how the winter's going by then. Probably in late December I'll make an update, because by late December we have a good idea of what the winter will actually look like. So I'll probably make a couple more of these updates, and let me know down in the comment section if you like it. Leave a comment down below saying yeah, I would like more of these. If you don't, tell me why down in the comments, and if you want me to improve something with these videos, tell me why, tell me what and why also in the comment section. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure that you are subscribed, turn on notifications, and leave a like. As well, if you have any questions for your area, leave a comment down below. I answer all of your comments, or I at least look at all your comments, and you'll know I looked at your comment if you get that little heart icon next to the comment. That's just my way of saying I've looked at your comment, and if you ever have a question, I always answer all of the questions directly. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. But anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.